Hello everyone. So by now, all of you must be knowing what is this term called activation energy, right? We know that activation energy is the energy that needs to be given to the reactants to form the activated complex. And it is this activated complex that leads to the formation of products, right? So we can say that if the reactants are not given this activation energy, then products will not form. So in a way, we can say that this activation energy decides whether a reaction will occur or a reaction will not occur. In other words, this activation energy is like a control switch, which decides the fate of a reaction. And all of you will be astonished to know that changes in activation energy can lead to the formation of completely different products or increase or decrease in rate. And precisely in today's class, we will learn how changes in activation energy changes the course of a reaction. So now first let us try to understand how different activation energies lead to the formation of different products. By taking the example of this reaction where reactants A and B lead to the formation of product C at high temperature, but the same reactants A and B lead to the formation of product D at low temperatures. To understand the reason for this, we first need to plot a graph that tells us the energy profile of this reaction. And if we do that, that graph will look somewhat like this. Now carefully notice that in this graph, we have marked the activation energy EAC leading to the formation of product C and the activation energy EAD leading to the formation of product D. And the activation energy EAD is less than the activation energy EAC. So let us understand what happens at low temperatures. So we know that when the temperature is low, less energy is available to the reactants to form products, right? Now because less energy is available, the reactants are able to absorb less energy, and because they are able to absorb less energy, they will prefer to absorb the lesser activation energy EAD and lead to the formation of product D. And the product C will not form because it has a higher activation energy. So in a way, I can say that the product D forms faster as compared to the product C in these conditions. And this product D is called the kinetically controlled or kinetically stable product. Now let us understand what happens when the temperature is increased. So at high temperature, we have large amount of energy available to us, right? And because we have large amount of energy available to us, it is possible that the reactants will absorb the higher activation energy EAC and can lead to the formation of product C. And that exactly is what happened. And this product C is called the thermodynamically controlled or thermodynamically stable product. And do you know why product C forms under these conditions? Well, quite simply, if you notice the energies of products C and D, you will notice that the energy of product C is very less as compared to product D. Therefore, product C is more stable as compared to product D and forms under these conditions. And because of this, it is called the thermodynamically controlled or thermodynamically more stable product. Now let us apply these conditions or these principles to solving a question. Now if you carefully have a look at this question, you will notice that in this question, we have been given an enthalpy diagram for a reaction where A and B lead to the formation of products C and D. And we have been given 4 statements. And we have to find out which of these 4 statements is incorrect. Now, as a first step to solve this question, mark all the activation energies of all the reactions you can think of in this diagram. Like activation energy E1 representing the reaction of formation of AB from D, activation energy E2 representing the reaction where AB forms D, activation energy E3 where AB forms product C, and finally the activation energy E4 where product C forms AB. Now next we need to analyze each of the options for the incorrect output. Now have a careful look at the first option, because the first option tells us that the activation energy leading to the formation of product C is 5 kilojoules per mole less than the activation energy leading to the formation of product D. We know that the activation energy leading to the formation of product C is E3 and the activation energy leading to the formation of product D is E2. Right. Now let us first calculate the values of E3 and E2 from our diagram. When we do that, we will get the value of E3 as 15 kilojoules per mole and the value of E2 as 10 kilojoules per mole. Now if we subtract E2 from E3, we'll get a value of 5 kilojoules per mole. So what does this subtraction equation tells us? This subtraction equation tells us that the value of E3 is 5 kilojoules per mole times more than the value of E2. But in the option, opposite is written. It tells us that the value is 5 kilojoules per mole times less. Right? So the first option is incorrect and is false. So now we know that the option A is the correct answer of this question. But still, let us analyze the other options too. If you have a careful look at options C and B, you will notice that in the option B, we have been told that the product C is a thermodynamically stable product. And in the option C, we have been told that the product D is the kinetically stable product. And we know that from our previous knowledge that these options are true and correct. Therefore, B and C are not the correct answers of this question. Moving on to the option D, which tells us that the enthalpy for the formation of AB from C is highest of all the enthalpies. We know that that enthalpy is E4. And looking at the diagram, in fact, E4 is highest, right? Therefore, the option D is also true or correct. But because we need to find the incorrect statement, this option is not the correct answer of this question. So only option A is the correct answer of this question. So now we know that activation energy decides which product will form at which temperature. But at this point, a question should arise in your minds. And that is, can we somehow change this activation energy? Well, answer to that question lies ahead. And ahead we will learn about a substance called catalyst, which in fact can change activation energy. So now before understanding catalyst, let us first define what a catalyst is. A catalyst is a substance which when added into a reaction increases the rate of the reaction without itself undergoing any chemical change and regenerates in the reaction again and again. Now don't worry, this definition will become more clear as I discuss further. But first, let us learn, how does a catalyst actually work? Well, answer to this question came in the form of intermediate complex theory, which tells us that when a catalyst C is added into a reactant R, it first leads to the formation of an intermediate complex RC. And this intermediate complex RC is unstable, and therefore, in the next step, this RC leads to the formation of product P and the catalyst C. If you notice this second step, you will notice that the catalyst C is again formed. And the same catalyst C which is formed in the second step can be again used in the first step to form more amounts of RC. In a way, this catalyst C works in the form of a cycle, where first C reacts with R, leading to the formation of RC, and then RC leads to the formation of product P, again giving back C. And this C again goes back and reacts with R to form RC. In this way, this cycle repeats again and again until all the reactant molecules are converted into product. And because of this reason, a very small amount of catalyst is sufficient to completely convert large amount of reactants to products. So now I want all of you to carefully notice the definition of a catalyst. I have told you that in this definition, a catalyst increases the rate of a reaction. So how does a catalyst increase a reaction rate? Well, in reality, a catalyst decreases the activation energy for the reaction. And what happens when the activation energy is decreased? Well, you have learned that in your previous class about Arrhenius equation, that if the activation energy is decreased, then the value of rate constant increases, right? And because rate constant is directly proportional to rate, the value of rate also increases. So in short, a catalyst decreases the activation energy of a reaction, thereby increasing the rate of that reaction. So another question now here arises, and that is, how does this process exactly happen? Well, to understand that, think of this reaction where R forms product P. And the energy diagram of this reaction is shown here. You will notice that here, the activated complex A is formed by the activation energy EA, right? Now suppose in this reaction I add a catalyst C. Then the activation energy is reduced to EB and results in the formation of activated complex B. Now, did you notice what has happened here? Now here, the reactant R can form product P also through the activated complex B and activation energy EB. So now, our reactant has two choices of forming product through two different paths, path A and path B. What do you think the reactant will choose? Which path this reactant will choose to form product P? Well, quite obviously, the reactant will choose the path which requires less energy, and that is path B. And in the presence of catalyst, the reactant chooses path B, leading to the formation of product P. And because path B requires less activation energy, less time is taken for conversion of R to P, and because less time is taken, the rate obviously increases. To understand this concept further, think of this diagram as a hill, and you need to travel from one side of the hill to the other side. Basically, you can do that through two ways. Either you can travel all the way to the top of the hill and reach to the other end, or you can also travel from the middle path of the hill and reach the other end faster. And a point to note here is that you will take more amount of energy to travel all the way to the top and reach the other end, but less energy will be needed to travel through the middle of the hill, right? A catalyst somewhat does the same work, because a catalyst provides an alternative pathway which has less energy to form product P. So now we know what a catalyst can do. But it is equally important to know what a catalyst cannot do. And as a first point, a catalyst cannot change the delta G value of a reaction whose value is positive to a negative value. Simply meaning that if we have a reaction whose delta G is positive, indicating that the reaction cannot occur on its own or is non-spontaneous, a catalyst cannot change that delta G value to negative and make the reaction occur or make the reaction spontaneous. So simply, a catalyst can only catalyze spontaneous reaction. So the second thing which a catalyst cannot do is that a catalyst cannot change the value of equilibrium constant. But there is something else which a catalyst can do in this case, and that is a catalyst can catalyze the forward and the backward reactions to equal measure or equal degree so that the equilibrium state is reached faster. Simply meaning that if we have this reaction in which catalyst is not added, it will take more amount of time for this reaction to reach equilibrium state, where the concentration of reactants and products are in equilibrium with each other. Whereas if a catalyst is added, then this equilibrium state is reached faster. So now let us apply the concept of catalyst in solving this question, where a reaction is performed at 700 Kelvin in the absence of catalyst, and the same reaction is again performed at a lower temperature of 500 Kelvin in the presence of a catalyst. And it has been given in the question that the rate of the reaction in the presence of catalyst remains unchanged. This happens because the temperature has been decreased. Rate remaining unchanged means that the rate in both these reaction conditions is the same. And we have to find the value of activation energy for the catalyzed reaction. Now we have the same reaction being carried out in two different conditions, condition 1 and condition 2. So let the rate constant for the first reaction be K1 and for the second reaction be K2. Now we have been also given that the rate R1 is equals to R2, and because concentration of A remains constant, it simply means that K1 will be equals to K2. And we know the expression for K from Arrhenius equation is given like this. Using this expression in this equation and then cancelling out the common factors, finally we get e raised to the power minus EA1 by RT1 equals to e raised to the power minus EA2 by RT2. Next, we are going to take natural log or log to the base e on both sides of this equation. And we know that log to the base e of e raised to the power minus x is equals to minus x, right? Now, using this formula here, finally we get EA1 divided by RT1 equals EA2 divided by RT2. Now, even cancelling out R from both sides, finally we get EA1 by T1 equals to EA2 by T2. Now, at this point, I would like to focus your attention on another statement written in the question, and that is the activation energy for the catalyzed reaction is 30 kilojoules per mole less than the activation energy for the uncatalyzed reaction. So what does this mean? It actually means that EA2 equals to EA1 minus 30 kilojoules per mole. Now, reshuffling this, we can get the value of EA1 equals EA2 plus 30 kilojoules per mole. Now, substituting the value of EA1 in our previous equation, we get EA2 plus 30 kilojoules per mole divided by T1 equals to EA2 by T2. Now, further reshuffling this equation and simplifying it, we get an expression for value of EA2, which is equals to 30 kilojoules per mole multiplied by T2 divided by T1 minus T2. And we know the values of T1 and T2, which are 700 kelvins and 500 kelvin, right? Now, substituting those values here and further calculating, we can get the value of EA2 as 105 kilojoules per mole. And that is the activation energy for the catalyzed reaction. So, we know that a catalyst can decrease the activation energy of a reaction. But do you know that there are also chemicals which can increase the activation energy of a reaction and hence decrease the rate of a reaction? Such chemicals are called inhibitors, and these inhibitors are opposite to catalysts. Therefore, do not confuse between inhibitors and catalysts, because catalyst decreases the activation energy, whereas an inhibitor increases the activation energy. So, in today's class, we learned how activation energy decides the products of a reaction. We also learned how we can change this activation energy with the use of catalysts or inhibitors. In the next class, we will study about a theory of reaction rates, which is called the collision theory. But before we do that, let's do a quick recap of what we have learned today. At low temperatures, the product with lower activation energy will form, and that product is called the kinetically stable product. At high temperatures, the product with lower total energy will form even though the activation energy is high. This product is called the thermodynamically stable product. A catalyst is a substance that, when added into a reaction, lowers the activation energy and provides an alternative low energy path for the reaction to occur. A catalyst increases the rate of a reaction, whereas an inhibitor decreases the rate of a reaction.